Hi everyone, this is Dan and this is Blueberry 3 Angel Face. This is printed by Epic Comics. Oh, by the way, check that out. $12.95 back in the 80s. Freaking steal, bro. Anyway, this is by Jean-Michel Charlier and Jean Giraud. Yes, I think I got that right. I think I got it right. Anyhow, so I haven't gone over Blueberry in quite a while, and there's been a lot of moving around, all kinds of other stuff since I've visited this book. And technically I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit because I am not going over the story of Blueberry going to jail and breaking out and suddenly getting roped into an assassination plot of President Grant, which in and of itself is pretty awesome. But again, it's a little too long for one video. I'm actually going to go over the second part of this doubleheader, and that would be Book 6, Broken Nose. I think this one right here caught my attention because it's a little more closed as a story. It also has some of the more older coloring style from the previous first book that I did. And it's an interesting color style. And I keep going back to a lot of these French comics for their coloring styles. By the way, this is, if those of you who don't know what this is a French comic book, a bande dessinée. I think I pronounced that one right too. Yeah. So anyway, let me get you caught up to speed here. So Mike Blueberry from the previous books has become a fugitive of the state, for lack of a better way of saying it. And last we saw him, he was running away from people as they were attempting to arrest him for attempted assassination of U.S. President Grant. Spoilers, he didn't actually try to assassinate him. He kind of got roped into it against his will. And here we move ourselves to a completely different setting, this one in Arizona. Fort Bowie, Arizona. And we're given a scene here of these two guys shooting Apache Indians and drawing the ire of the colonel in charge of this fort, who is telling them, hey, I'm trying to not start a war with the natives here. What are you guys doing? And these two characters, who are total shitbags, really don't care. They're kind of after it for the laughs, and they're just generally not good people. And in sort of a funny preview outside, we see a carriage that's supposed to come into the fort, and they end up getting kidnapped, or really held up, by some more Apache tribe members. These Apache tribe members take their clothes and dress up as them, which allows them to sneak into the encampment and punish the man here who cheated them out. Turns out he's a even bigger scumbag than he was in the beginning of the book, and he's basically selling them bad goods. Meanwhile, the lady here, who's had to surrender her hat to one of the Apaches, was given a very expensive gemstone in exchange for the hat. Now, what kind of person would hold them up at gunpoint, but proceed to trade in, precious gemstone for a little hat? Why, of course, it's and you can see the hat here and the visual cues as Moebius is doing some great work here with the art here. It turns out it's none other than Blueberry. Yep, he is living with the Apache right now and attempting to court the elder tribe leader's daughter here. As he takes the hat that he took from the lady and tries to give it as a gift, but the young native woman is not very impressed with it. Anyhow, this is a pretty long story, like several pages. So the gist of the story here is Blueberry getting involved in a conflict with the native tribe versus the army right here and the Americans. And during this time, he is kind of trying to find a new life, being part of being accepted as an Apache, as a brave. And doesn't really work out for him, as there's a lot of prejudice against him from those who don't trust the white man, with reason, right? And on the other side of it, there's other characters here, Wild Bill Hickok, which is which is Charlier here having a little fun with American legends, as well as this character here almost looks like Daniel Boone. Ends up being this legendary trapper who aids the Americans in trying to track down and hunt the natives here. And it's really interesting. Blueberry gets into a side plot where he attempts to prove to the tribe that he's worthy of marrying the chief's daughter. He does this by hunting a bald eagle and killing it with his bare hands. You know what's very interesting is it was said that a lot of the native people actually didn't hold eagles in high regard. Most natives consider eagles to be very cowardly creatures. I don't know if you guys live in an area that has eagles, but they are rather opportunistic birds of prey. They don't really do a lot of their own hunting if they can take food from other things or take wounded animals. After all, they are wild animals. They're gonna take whatever they can get, right? But what in a typical Blueberry fashion, this is kind of a theme with Blueberry, and that is the idea of the theme of the hard luck protagonist, right? Blueberry genuinely is a good person, like overall in this book, I should say the series, but he keeps running into misfortune everywhere he goes, and he keeps getting into trouble and all kinds of unfortunate events. Like the worst things tend to happen to him, and he slowly is getting more and more hard-boiled from those events, right? He's becoming a little darker. Like even in this opening scene, right? He makes Tolson, who is the guy who cheated the Apaches and sold them poisoned alcohol. He forces Tolson to drink his own poison alcohol, and that ends up killing him, which is a little different than how he was when he started right here. It wasn't nearly as grim right here. But again, this isn't an American comic book, right? This is the European style of storytelling, a lot darker, a lot more grim, a lot more, I wouldn't say necessarily realistic all the time, because they can definitely do a lot of fantasy and stuff, but there's a more human feeling to the French comic books, is what I'll say. So we get all kinds of crazy mishaps back and forth. This Apache, Victorio, he ends up constantly coming into conflict with Blueberry because he wants the chief's daughter for himself. He also is a bit of a hothead and bloodthirsty guy. He's always wanting to have to go to war with the white man in this book, much to the chagrin of Blueberry, who knows that that's probably not a good idea with how well armed the American army is. So yeah, they end up getting into a whole bunch of trouble right here. Really interesting about the coloring. There are parts where I kind of like the single tone coloring scheme right here. Like what's very interesting. So this is colored by this is colored by Evelyn Chen Lee. Assuming that's a Vietnamese name. And what's kind of interesting about her coloring scheme is she uses colors that are like when it's nighttime, she's using cooler colors, and when it's during the day, she's using warmer colors. And she's always using colors that are only slightly off in tone. Like they're all next to each other on the color wheel, right? You can see this is like a beige, brown, or like a cool brown or a cool gray. And here you got like lighter blues and then purples, right? You have one piece of like a little bit of yellow, but it's like a neon yellow. It's like a really interesting color scheme because it's very simple and yet effective. But I will say sometimes I look at it and I feel like it's not as good as the first colorists in this book, which is it'd be Moebius himself in the first book, because Moebius is more fond of using primaries, and I kind of like the feel of it, especially in some of the panels here. It has a more American feel to it, which, not being like overly patriotic, I just like primaries more. This story I liked more than the previous story, at least for me, because I thought it was a really interesting concept for Charlier to explore here. But the colors, I'm not really big into Evelyn Tranlee's colors. I think sometimes it takes away from Moebius's great art here. Like when Moebius decides to focus on a face or a look here, like here's a great one of Chinny, the chief's daughter, right? And then let me go back to the first story. There's actually another good one right here. Like this is this lady that Blueberry meets. Oh man, did I just jump too far ahead? Yeah, I think it jumped too far ahead. Well, it doesn't matter. The whole point being is that Moebius will go in and out in his style, from these like more dramatic, detailed scenes to quicker, more let's say impressionistic work. And I feel like these colors don't really bring out his art as well as some of the other coloring schemes, or his own coloring for that matter, is what I will say. Anyhow, typical to any Blueberry book, he ends up doing the right thing at the end of the book, but still getting screwed, as he is captured by the American Army at the end of this book, and who knows what happens to Blueberry. You're going to have to go get book 7 to find out. But really long story, a lot of meat to the story, by the way, a lot of stuff going on. Really like it. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, this BD, which is about, let's see, how many pages is this? Here to here, it's like, yeah, 46, yeah, it's like 47 pages, right? This BD probably sold like equivalent for like $6 or $5 in France or Belgium, right? And it would have been expensive by like American standards, right? Because at the time, comic books are 24 pages and going for maybe 75 cents or $1 at this time in the 80s. But if you look at like the meat of the story and how much panels here, like look at this, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 panels. And then when you get a big panel in a French comic book, because of the page size, there's like so much detail. Like this has less panels, but look at how big this page is. You can even see this guy in the background clearly, like, ay. It's pretty cool. Like even look at this one right here. You got a panel in it, and then look at the detail in the panel right here. Like holy crap, it's great. Love the facial expressions right here. Like man, dude. Like Moebius knew how to make facial expressions. Like look at this one. This guy getting freaking shanked. Híjole. Oh man. Anyway, so my thoughts. Art. Well, it's Moebius. There you go. The art's amazing. Coloring, not so much. I'm not really a fan of Evelyn Tranley's coloring. Story by Charlier. It is an interesting story, is what I'll say. And what's kind of sad about this story is that it shows both the Americans and the Apaches in a very human light. There's a lot of both good and bad people on both sides of this, and the story is not trying to sugarcoat history, but instead just focus on the human aspect and the relations and the drama and the excitement, right? It's I don't know how historically accurate I would say the story is, but for me as an American, I didn't feel there was anything out of place when I read the story. It felt pretty close to what I could imagine happening in the West, for at least a comic book anyway, right? So I kind of really enjoyed this a lot. These books are, as I've noted in previous reviews to commenters on the Blueberry books, these are still really difficult to get, and unfortunately they're getting more and more expensive, especially with inflation and all kinds of other stuff going on in the world nowadays, and which is unfortunate. I don't know why nobody has republished this stuff in the United States, or at least collected it into an omnibus. Like this series would be perfect for an American omnibus if it ever got republished here. But if you're lucky enough, you might be able to find the Epic Comics prints. They're pretty good quality. Or you can learn how to read French and just buy them from France, though I'm not sure what the import tax is for that. Huh. Kind of wonder about that. I might want to try that one day. Anyhow, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. If you got any comments on Blueberry 3, in particular the story Broken Nose, leave it down below, and I will see you next time.